The introduction of Kefir's newest game, Frostborn, has brought turmoil and unrest. Last Day on Earth fans have waited over 2 years for a truly multiplayer game, which is now finally delivered in a different game and a different genre. The devs have revealed some important information on why this has happened, but before I get into that, I am going to give a full comparison between these two games. The first category that I will be comparing them is graphics. Last Day on Earth has always had some of the best graphics of its genre, but it is clear that the devs of Frostborn have upped the game in the amount of detail they have included. If you zoom in while playing the two games, you can clearly see that Frostborn has higher definition graphics in almost every aspect of the game. This would have made me give Frostborn the win in this category, but as I've listened to the differing opinions of the game's fan bases and read the reviews online, it seems that the majority of you prefer Last Day on Earth's graphics over that of Frostborn's. I believe the reason for this is because Last Day on Earth's graphics have higher contrast, which, while less realistic, is aesthetically easier on the eyes. And because the point of view in Last Day on Earth is more zoomed in, so it is easier to see your character. That being said, I don't think Frostborn should zoom in because it would make it much more difficult to be strategic in multiplayer. So until Last Day on Earth has real PvP, this might be an area that LDOE continues to lead in. The second category of comparison is the grind. This is a clear win for Frostborn. Part of that is because it has less content. For example, there is no motorcycle to grind for, but in addition to this, the multiplayer aspect of Frostborn allows the option to create roles for grinding. For example, in my family, Partisan is amazing at farming the green zones. I've seen him grind over 50 zones in one sitting. Tarek, on the other hand, is phenomenal at farming copper and can do cellars by himself. I don't know how he does it, and I would not recommend others do it because for the rest of us, cellars are a death trap, but he is somehow able to make it happen. Abdullah knows exactly what is going on in the game at all times. He knows which neighbor is most likely to attack and informs the rest of the family when we need to get on to defend our base. And then finally, I'm really good at stocking workbenches with the materials that they farm for us and taking credit for the hard work that they do. That is my role in our family. Okay, obviously most of that's a joke, but on a serious note, when I'm busy with family or making videos and that is all I can do, it still helps the team that I can keep all the workbenches running when all of them are asleep. By each of us focusing on what we do best, we all advance more quickly. The third category is storyline. Contrary to Kefir's advertising, Frostborn does not have a storyline. It looks like they plan to add one someday, and because I love Norse mythology, I am really excited about this, but currently it has nothing. Meanwhile, Last Day on Earth doesn't really have a storyline either. They might add a little subplot here or there, but nothing to keep you engaged in the game. So I'm going to give the winner of this category to Grim Soul Survival. Some of you may say, wait, this isn't a video about Grim Soul Survival. And I would say, yes, you're right. But the devs of Grim Soul have done such a great job with their storyline that they deserve to win in this area, even though they weren't in the running. The fourth category is long-term fun. Which game will be entertaining the longest? This is a tricky one because Last Day on Earth has a lot more content than Frostborn, but Frostborn has multiplayer. So if someone was brand new to both games and didn't mind single-player games and the devs never updated either game ever again, then I would recommend Last Day on Earth. The problem is that's not going to happen. And historically, when multiplayer games get updates, the enjoyment of those updates lasts longer because multiplayer adds a diversity to that same event each time you play it. For example, many Last Day on Earth players have been frustrated when Kefir slowed down in releasing updates. This is because in single-player games, those of us that have done everything wait on updates to stay engaged in the game. In contrast, when the Treasury update in Frostborn comes, which seems like it might be in the next 60 days, we will be able to play that event multiple times as if it was our first time, each time shifting and changing as different players think of new strategies and others think of counter strategies to play the event. So the Frostborn devs will have to do a lot less work to keep the game entertaining. Therefore, I would argue that Frostborn wins in this category. The fifth category is how friendly the game is to free-to-play players. As you guys know, I have been hard on Kefir because their gaming model is extremely pay to win. Some people have argued with me saying that Last Day on Earth isn't pay to win, but now those same people, when they played Frostborn, realized how pay to win the model actually is in the context of multiplayer. These games have almost identical typical monetization systems. The biggest difference is the implementation of multiplayer. In reality, Last Day on Earth has more options in the shop. In fact, you could pretty much get everything in the game without ever playing the game. Frostborn, on the other hand, does not have as many options. Getting the best items in the game, like the sledgehammer, tier 2 backpack, or tier 4 chest, require that you actually play the game. Furthermore, being pay to win in Frostborn doesn't mean that you will actually win. A free-to-play team that works well together can easily overpower a pay-to-win player and get all of their pay-to-win gear, which means they ended up paying for you to win and not for them to win. Now, there are entire teams that are pay-to-win, but as I mentioned in my video on how to protect your stuff, a smart free-to-play team that plays conservatively can easily use their defender's advantage to beat a pay-to-win team, again, resulting in free-to-play players having access to pay-to-win gear. That being said, after reading a lot of your comments, it sounds like a lot of you are struggling to find good teammates in Frostborn. This makes you easier prey to higher level and pay-to-win players. Kefir has stated that they are working hard to fix this, and not to be redundant, but I'd again recommend my video on how to protect your stuff because it will show you how to keep your stuff long enough to advance to where you can compete with those players. So because of all that feedback y'all have given, I'm going to give this category to Last Day on Earth. I still think both of them are horrible in this category, but at least there is currently no option to get bullied by pay-to-win players in Last Day on Earth. The sixth category is multiplayer. Obviously, Frostborn wins in this category because it has multiplayer in its zones. Last Day on Earth does have Sector 7, which the devs have been updating. In fact, they just came out with a really good update for Sector 7, but even with this latest update, it doesn't even come close to the co-op challenge presented by Frostborn's Sanctum of Odin. And Last Day on Earth doesn't even have an option for PvP, which is integrated throughout all of Frostborn. As I mentioned in my most recent Last Day on Earth video, I asked the lead developer of multiplayer why Last Day on Earth is struggling to compete with Frostborn's multiplayer system. Specifically, why is the lag so bad in Sector 7? He responded that Frostborn's system was set up with 3 localized servers: North America, Europe, and Asia. Players on those servers can interact with each other, but not with players on other servers. He then explained that the Last Day on Earth devs are hoping to create a multiplayer system where everyone from all countries could play with each other. I thought this was a great answer because the future of gaming seems to be pointing towards global multiplayer games. So I think it's a noble cause for Last Day on Earth to attempt to make a global server. But the problem is that when I tested the 2 games, something still doesn't add up. You can see here that when I got on the Asian and European servers, the lag did increase a little bit, but still not nearly as much as I experienced while playing Last Day on Earth. So while I respect the devs' attempt to create global gameplay, it seems like the technology used in Frostborn is superior even when using servers on the other side of the world. This brings us to the 7th category of potential. As Owlus admitted in his most recent interview, Last Day on Earth was originally built with a technology that wasn't good for multiplayer. This caused them to create Sector 7 to incorporate multiplayer, but it still seems like it's been an uphill battle for them. In contrast, last week while playing Frostborn, 2 teams allied together to raid our base, which resulted in an epic 2 versus 8 person battle. Even with 10 people right next to each other, flinging spells and popping potions, I experienced almost no lag. So it seems from my perspective that Frostborn's technology is better in almost every way. I'm not a developer and I do not understand the amount of effort that went into Frostborn or all the effort that has gone into Last Day on Earth as they've attempted to make it a multiplayer game. But my take on this is, Kefir, you did it. You made a multiplayer game that works. So just reskin the reskin. Forget about Sector 7 and give us a Last Day on Earth with this kind of technology. Even though my personal preference is the Norse mythology theme, there is a huge amount of your fans that prefer the zombie theme, so just use the technology that is working to make the game that your fans want. So that is my opinion, and I know the devs value it, but I'm just one person. So I have created a poll so that you guys can give your feedback on what you want them to do with Last Day on Earth. If you play Last Day on Earth, the devs watch all of my videos, so I would encourage you to vote in that poll so they can know your opinion. Now, I wouldn't get your hopes up too much because, as many of you know, I have a theory that Kefir is purposely trying to sabotage their games until they can fully develop the concept into dozens of different genres. This theory is based on a lot of things, including the fact that they have gone against overwhelming player feedback, even when it is obviously stunting the growth and income of their games. To watch my entire theory on this, make sure to check out my video on the subject. I think the theory I presented in that video is even strengthened by how Kefir released Frostborn, in that they only released it in 6 small countries. Because I think they knew that if they released it globally like they did for Last Day on Earth or Grimsoul Survival, it would explode like Last Day on Earth did originally. That's just my theory, and I have not been able to prove it yet. So in conclusion to this video, I would suggest that if you are a more casual player who wants to take your time and doesn't care that much about multiplayer, you should play Last Day on Earth. But if you're a more intense gamer who likes multiplayer, and especially if you have 3 friends you can play with, then Frostborn is your clear choice. If Frostborn is not available in your country, make sure to check out my video on how to download the game. Well, that's it guys, hope that helps. If there is something I missed, please let me know in a comment below so that I can improve and others can see it. Also, please keep in mind that YouTube does not pay a whole lot, so liking, subscribing, or supporting me on Patreon are all ways that you can help me make more content for you. Alright guys, I'll see you next time.